Today is Thursday, October 7th. Wow. I don't know. There's where the year has gone. I don't really know. I love to figure this out. Um, this is Sue Petterson from the Michigan District, and tonight we actually have with us the governor of the Michigan District of Kiwanis, Rosemary Robinson, who's going to talk a little bit about her plans for the upcoming year. And we're excited about that. So we are recording this so that you can share this information. Next week, it'll be President-elect Burt West will join us on Thursday, October 14th, the day before National Bosses Day. October 21st, Melissa McMahon will be with us from Kiwanis Youth Protection. Kiwanis Youth Protection Week is actually next week, but she will be with us on the 21st to talk about the responsibilities of clubs and their mission with Kiwanis Youth Protection and what clubs are doing. And I will tell you that my club has made the decision that every member of our club will now have a background check. And we're going to pay for the first one. And on the third year, we're going to add it to people's dues. And the board took it to the club vote and it went through. So I think everybody's realized the significance and the importance of that. President Peter will join us on October 28th. So I do want to thank Rosemary, who jumped in today because Peter had a conflict, so we switched them. November 4th, we have the Kiwanis Club of, Greg, you're going to have to help me. That's doing the Jack of Spades program.
Clinton Township.
Clinton Township that's going to do the Jack of Spades. They're going to talk about a card program they did at a local restaurant.
That's simple human sense.
And they are going to talk about that program and how they raised a little over $100,000 during a pandemic. We're actually going to change it to the King of Clubs instead of the Jack of Spades, being that Kiwanis is a king. We're going to be the King of Clubs. I thought, hey, what a great way to play off of that. November 11th is actually Veterans Day here in the United States. And I have been communicating with 4 or 5 individuals who served on a committee. And Brad, I want to thank Brad and a few other people at Kiwanis International for giving us information. I sent out a note and every one of them wrote back and said, we're in, let's do this. So I just got to set up time to meet with them and connect that. And then our last session will actually be on Thursday, November 18th. And then we will take off November, December, and we'll figure out what we're going to do in January. My calendar's empty. I don't have a calendar for that year, so I'm not ready to go yet.
I'll send you one tomorrow, Sue.
Yeah, we'll see what we're going to do. We'll have to see what we're going to do. So with that, I am going to turn it over. Rosemary, you have sharing rights.
Okay.
I am going to turn this over to Rosemary. Rosemary has now been in office 7 days. And maybe she'll share with us. And then we have several here who have been out of office for 7 days, right? I bet they're wondering. So Rosemary's going to talk about her plans for the upcoming year. And we will go from there. So Rosemary, take it away.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being on. It's good to see some of the faces and friends we haven't been able to see in a while. The first cat is giving her 2 cents in the background, but she will not show her face. So I'm sorry. Greetings to all of my friends there. Hi from Australia. I see Tony there, Southwest. So it's so much fun to see everyone. Daughter of a Baptist minister. And so I got down the rabbit trail just as good as the rest of them. So hopefully my notes will keep me on track tonight. I was going to start off with a little bit of a story that might explain a few things better. If you saw our district newsletter this month, you'll have found out that I was called Ears in college. And that just came about because I had the latest lunch you could possibly get. All my friends had a different hour. So I had to sit at the table by myself and I'd listen to the conversations going on around me. And you wouldn't believe some of the stuff you would hear, and it'd be funny. And I'd tell my roommates and my friends. And so they ended up nicknaming me Ears because I would sit there and listen to other people's conversations. Well, nobody would have thought that would have been too useful, but then Kiwanis came around and people would just start walking up to me and start saying stuff. And I'd be like, why in the world are they telling me this? Why aren't they telling their lieutenant governor? Why aren't they telling the governor? Why aren't they kicking this up to Brad at KI? You know, that's kind of where that should go. And so I never thought too much of it. I can sit and chat with the best of them. So I'd give my 2 cents back to whatever issue they had brought up to me. And so I go to set district goals for the year, and coming up with an initial idea is not my forte, and I will freely admit that. But if somebody gives me a kernel of a little seed, I can take that and I can go running. And so I sat down to work on the district goals, and I realized that I didn't have to come up with them from scratch. The past 8 years of people telling me things that they thought needed to change in Kiwanis, or we needed to focus on this or that, actually were my goals, and we just came and put them into better wordings and actually measurable goals. So that's where they have come from, is other Kiwanis members telling me something. And the first thing is the reason we're all here. We are here to help kids. And if it's one thing the past 18 months has shown us, is that COVID didn't take away the kids needing our help, our communities needing our help. In fact, if it did anything, it emphasized areas where we need help. And our club just found this out the easy way today when the school superintendent showed up and we didn't have a speaker. So we started asking him questions. And what he was telling us about the schools, well, they've got enough teachers to staff the classrooms, but they don't have enough parapros. They don't have any subs. They don't have enough bus drivers. They don't have enough cooks. And so Rosemary opened her big mouth and goes, we're a volunteer organization. We are here to help our community. What can we do to help you? We want to help you. And so that kind of went on a discussion from there. But, you know, it's entirely possible that as a Kiwanis club over this next year, we can fill a role in the school that they need help with. Their kindergartners can't even line up, was an example. So the first thing that we want to focus back on is on our kids. And here in the Michigan district, I went back into the numbers that Kiwanis International keeps on the lovely dashboard for us. And I found out that every single year without fail, we have averaged about a 10% increase every year in our service hours. And some of that's due to it actually getting reported. Some of that's due to clubs setting up new projects and actually doing more service. And what's funny is service numbers have kind of gone up on our, where's my camera? Gone up on our graph. Well, membership's kind of gone down a little bit. So I just thought that was kind of ironic. We don't have as many members, but we are doing more service. So anyway, our first big thing is to keep that 10% increase going. And so I made it easy. It's 10% increase over the past 5 years, mainly because it'd probably be really easy to do 10% if we just counted the service hours we did during COVID. And with that, you know, some of our clubs, they don't have the hands or the ability anymore to go out and do hands-on service due to health, age, etc. But they are great at writing checks. So if they happen to be one of those clubs, well, let's see, can you donate 10% more this year? So I didn't want to exclude anybody because money is always helpful to people. And we do have a lot of clubs that in the past traditionally have supported our Michigan Foundation as well as the Kiwanis Children's Fund. So I threw back in numerical goals for our clubs to reach out, and our lieutenant governors and our foundation trustees to reach out and see if we can increase our contributions to both of those foundations. And then to go in with that is engagement and our service leadership programs. You know, that's our heart and our future of Kiwanis. And so as we sit there, and it's hard coming back this year, can our key clubs still meet in the school? Are Circle Kers back in college, or are they still online? And how are we going to be able to do these programs that we do at the schools? And so I've chatted with both our administrators here in the district for Circle K and Key Club, and their biggest issue is that they just need the clubs out there. They need the clubs to actually have advisors who will actually show up and advise their service leadership clubs. They need clubs to help fund some of the events that students might need to go to, from rallies to their service leadership conferences, and to just kind of be there and mentor them as well. So, working along those lines and making sure that your administrator is actually active. They said it's one of the biggest things we could do other than writing a check. And as we keep moving along here, some of the things that people have told me that I've seen myself, hang on, there's cat treats. We'll make it quiet for a minute. I just got home about 3 minutes before this started. And so the cat is very upset that I haven't been home all day. One of the things I see that we kind of need to work on a little bit is how our clubs actually function. And some of that's to do with our internal structure. We don't push leadership people through fast enough. You have to wait your turn and pay your dues before you can be club president, or the opposite problem. Congratulations, welcome to Kiwanis. You're the president next year. So there's some issues with that. There's issues with, doing hands-on service, and whether that's we can't come up with ideas, or we don't want to do it, but one person in the club wants to do it, or where, for lack of better terms, we're not as receptive to new ideas. So, we have what we call the Achieving Club Excellence tools. And actually encouraging clubs to use those is a big goal this year. And I'm like, if a third of our clubs, I randomly pulled a number out of a hat and decided on a third of our clubs actually did one of our Achieving Club Excellence tools, we'd be in a lot better of a position. And there's 9 tools out there. There's even one to tell you how to plan a celebration. Do that tool, and maybe we'll get some interest in other stuff that we do as a Kiwanis club. And this isn't a new idea. This is just, something we've been trying to do for many years. And we tell clubs all the time to go do a needs analysis and see what your community actually needs. And I'm one. I've been telling my own club we need this. I printed it off and handed it to our president last year and said, we need to do this. We didn't do it. But guess what? How our clubs started responding when we started asking that superintendent questions today on what we needed, I was like, well, we improvised our community needs analysis today, and at least we've gotten some ideas going forward. And maybe I'll get them to do it this year, and maybe not. To go along with that, the easiest way to improve our club, to improve our service hours, to start getting new ideas into our club is to kind of bring our friends into Kiwanis. And so I've put out the challenge for clubs to add 5 new members to their roster this year. And just get 5 new names on that roster. I don't care if you've decided that your grandkid should be in Kiwanis. That's, what a better way than for grandpa to bring grandkid in, or grandma. I told my mom ran for city council a few years ago, and we were opening a new club in the area where she lives. And so for Christmas, she got a Kiwanis membership, because every good politician should be a member of a service organization. which she snickered, but she's always been jealous of me and my, as she terms them, y'all are my little Kiwanian friends. So my mother has always been jealous of my friends in Kiwanis. So she was kind of happy to be in the club while it was around. And then we do have, obviously, we'll look into opening some new clubs as we move on forward. And we have a goal of 2 this year. And there's a couple people that have had to drop out of their clubs due to work, or perhaps their club folded, that are interesting in opening a specific club, either online specific or for a specific purpose. So we are looking at some of those areas to open some new clubs for next year. And our last category is, we also need to focus on building our leadership pipeline. We need to focus on making sure our members are educated. I just remember one year I was lieutenant governor, and I'd had our Kiwanis International Foundation at the time, now the Kiwanis Children's Fund, chair come in and do a talk. And he mentioned the fact that clubs could go get a grant from the International Foundation. And hey, I read my Kiwanis magazine at least twice a year. So I'd seen all the information come in on this. I'm a whole lot better at reading the emails they send than the actual magazine. And I thought this was information everybody knew. One of my division members comes up to me after the meeting and goes, "Hey, I've been in Kiwanis 27 years, and I had no idea that we could apply for club grants they had just put in a park in the town." He's like, "I had no idea we could have applied for a grant to help us with this." They're also a really cheap club, for lack of better terms. So he was wondering if they could apply for a grant for something that had already happened, which is just kind of funny. But you never know what kind of thing you will learn by going to a Kiwanis event, whether it be a district event, division council, or whether it be a specific education model. So we've got goals for I think it's 70% of our clubs sending one of their officers to CLE, a club leadership education. Sue is working on doing other education sessions, such as this thing tonight, throughout the year. And there's, a goal, like if we could get 50% of our clubs to sit in and listen on some of these things, we've got youth protection coming on. If a good majority of my club got on that Let's Talk that night, we would fulfill our requirement for the youth protection review for the club for the year. So things like that. And my last thing that we're going to be starting to work on actually came out of my first division council meeting. So I'm sitting there as lieutenant governor. I just hope I'm faking my way through this enough that nobody knows that I have no idea what in the world I'm doing with my first division council meeting. And we'd had some turnover in our division that year. Each one of our divisions elects a trustee for our Michigan Foundation, and they resigned about a week before the Kiwanis year started. And on September 30th, I got an email from the person supposed to be my club's president saying that she was resigning, and I thought I was actually going to have to be president of my club, trustee, lieutenant governor, and something else that year. And we actually had somebody in my club step up to be president, so I didn't have to do that. And he's sitting at this division council meeting, and he's got his legal pad and a yellow number 2 pencil with the ridge side. I can see this clearly in my brain with this yellow pencil. And he is like frantically scribbling down notes. And I had no idea what was going on. Why in the world is he taking all these notes? That we were going around the room, and each club was sharing things that were upcoming over the next month or two in their clubs. So I didn't think too much of it. That was a Wednesday night. The next morning was our club meeting, and he gets up there to run the meeting, and he's like, I went to division council and I got some good ideas. So we're going to do a euchre for our friends outside of the Midwest. Euchre is a card game, very big here in Michigan. I still can't play it very well though. And we're going to do a euchre party fundraiser. I'm like, wow, that was talked about by two of the other clubs in our division. And then he goes, and we're going to do this ad book thingy. And then he goes out. So he'd swiped these two ideas for fundraisers that we could do during the winter, which is hard here in Michigan. We can't do outdoor fundraisers. They got to be inside fundraisers in the middle of winter. He'd swiped them from other clubs in our division. And I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of cool. And I get on Facebook and I see what other clubs are doing around. And that kind of led to an idea during COVID of what our club could do. And I'm like, well, if that's what's doing, maybe we could just make some sort of list that says XYZ name of a project and which clubs are doing it. And you could pull up this list and be like, we need a service project we can do in January. And you could look at all the service projects that other clubs had done and be like, oh, this one sounds cool. We could modify that so we could do it in January instead of June. So I do have a team that's working on compiling a list of fun ideas for our clubs. They could do during a meeting or maybe have a social event and do a list of different fundraisers they could have and which clubs they might be able to reach out to for ideas. And same thing with service projects. So that's kind of one thing I think might be able to help clubs with that. And because I'm a little nutty, I decided that we would put all of this into a hierarchy chart. And it all comes down to, let's see if it's going to pull up here. There we go. It's kind of, in my terms, it's an ancestry tree. We want to increase our service and support to the kids in our communities. And how are we going to do that? And so it just kind of feeds down, or you could say everything feeds back. By adding new members, we can increase the service and support we do to the kids. By sending leaders to be trained at the different sessions, that will help them come back and make our club stronger so we can increase our service and support to the children. Hey, by writing this check for $365 to the Kiwanis Children's Fund, we can impact more kids through that organization. So that's kind of how I designed it, is how it all feeds up and down, or by doing something, it feeds down into these areas. And so I think all the goals are there on the screen. You may or may not be able to read them. When I share my screen, I cannot see what else is going on in Zoom. So I'm going to move it back to there and stop the share. But I will be more than happy to send that out to you. So you can actually read it. But with that, I think I have babbled for 25 minutes. So does anybody have any questions for me? I see my cat has made notoriety in the chat.
So here's an opportunity to see for our current governors, if we have any current governors on the call, or any former governors on the call that excuse me, want to offer any advice to Rosemary, or things that you would wish you would have done differently. I'm sure there is some of that information out here, or things that that you wish you would have done, but also an opportunity to ask Rosemary, what she's. I'll ask the question: what do you see coming in Kiwanis?
Do you want the pessimistic side or the optimistic?
I want the optimistic side.
I actually see probably one of the best opportunities for us to go out there and serve our community right now, and to go out and be visible, to go out and be an asset. And with the way everything's going on, people want positivity. So you can get, maybe not national news so much, maybe not even your local news, but maybe that really, really local newspaper that's around. They're looking for positive articles, and they'll more than likely want to feature, if you're out there, let's see, what could you be out there doing right now? I'll go back to the schools, for example. One of the things the superintendent told me is that normally when you go into kindergarten and preschool, they teach you kind of how to form lines to go to the bathroom, to go out to recess, to go to lunch, etc. And right now they've got 2.5 years of school kids that don't know how to line up because they went to kindergarten the first year online. So now they're in first grade, and by now they would know that part, but they weren't in school last year to know that. So instead of having one, he used the word unruly age group, they now have 2 unruly age classes. And there's 5 elementary schools in our school district. So you can just imagine the sheer number of kids causing ruckus. I worked as an after-school daycare worker one semester in college. It was a good thing that was my senior year and I wasn't planning to be a teacher already, because that would have probably kiboshed that idea. But you look and try to keep 20 kids in line. I don't even know how many kids are in a regular school class, because after school is a bit different. And it's like herding cats. You really can't do it. It's not hard. It's not easy thing to do. And so I said, what can we do to help? Do you need 3 more people to stand there and kind of guide these kids in a straight line? That's something we could probably figure out a few people to come in and help with occasionally in the school to help out with some of that. We have people who are past teachers in our club who might be able to go in and do tutoring. One of the things is we have a performing arts center. It's a very beautiful building. I think it was built about 6 years ago. It has a wonderful sound thingy, so they can actually have nice concerts there. They don't have anybody even willing to be paid to run it. And I'm like, maybe that's something the Kiwanis Club could step up and do. And at least for this year, or maybe for a few years, run the building, show up, unlock the doors, and turn on the lights. But that's something you could be, in the paper for, as, in order for us to have this beautiful building we built open, the Kiwanis Club stepped up, and they're the ones who make sure the lights are turned on and that it's cleaned up afterwards, or whatever thing may be. So, and then the spread of social media. I figure about half my club is on social media. So there's 32 of us in the club, and I'd say at least a good 15 of us are on social media. And there's so much negativity and fake news and whatever else you want to say, we'll just even say on Facebook, that maybe we can start spreading a bit more. And because I run our Facebook page, I understand how it works from the backside of it. And if we could just get more people working with us and sharing the post and liking, hearting, favoriting, that spreads the word a bit better across all these things and eliminate some of the negativity on our feed. So in my view, we probably have one of the greatest times to increase our overall image and people's awareness of us, but we also have one of the best times to actually go out and be able to specifically target some kids to help, because it's very visible right now. So that would be my thing about, it's a great time to be a Kiwanian.
Thank you. Other questions, other thoughts? I'm going to let you just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Well, Sue, this is Barb Thompson, and I can tell you things I wish I had done as governor.
Perfect.
I wish that I had focused more on membership, and I think Rosemary's in a really good place to do that because of her energy and her optimism. And if I had, for every governor's visit I made, if we'd gotten one or two more members in that club or that division, that would have made a big difference. So that's what I wish I could do over.
Thank you.
And to go along with that, people think that sometimes I've asked for training on how to just invite somebody, your average member could just actually invite somebody to come out. And I'm like, you know what? I still don't think that would work. I'm a more unique situation. My family doesn't live in an area where there's a club they can go to easily with their work schedule, because it's a lunch club and they work like me. And then most of my friends are spread around the country, not locally, and I work with 3 other people. So I don't have this huge group to pull people from and say, hey, you want to come to my Kiwanis meeting today? Well, one, we can't have that many people show up late to the office or things along that line. But what I realized sitting in a meeting one time is I was actually out trying to coach a club, and they were talking about membership, and they talked about some of the service they did. And I remember this one guy, and I think he still might be in Alana's club, because he was from the Okemos club before you guys merged. He was talking about going out to this nature center they have and building the park benches. And his eyes just really lit up when he was talking about this. And I'd heard him talking earlier about his grandkids. And people always assume I'm about 10 years younger than I am. So he was assuming I was about the same age as his grandkids. And they were talking about how hard it was to get members and different things. And I just piped in and I looked at him and I'm like, have you ever thought about asking your grandkid to come out with you and screw those benches together? And you could see this look of confusion come on his face as to why would I do that? And I found that it's actually easier to ask somebody, or in the case of my poor boyfriend, I can script him or voluntold him that he's coming with me. But I find it's a lot easier to tell come to a service project. And so when I go out to talk to clubs, I'm like, hey, invite your friend, invite your coworker, invite your neighbor to come out to a service project because you need to help more kids. And I said this tonight at an installation dinner I was at, and they all started kind of snickering and pointing. And it turns out that somebody had actually brought their workmate that night. And that person has been out to a few events, worked on their service projects, and is joining as a corporate member this year. So it was just kind of this ironic thing, but I find it's actually easier. So when I talk about membership, it's nothing you must do this or you must do that, but to also provide a way or an example, ask your neighbor to come out and help you on XYZ thing. And then you can kind of start to see wheels turning in people's brains a bit. And, that's all I'm challenging you to do it. And then you got people ooh, she's double daring me. I got to go do it kind of deal. But, when you kind of pose some of the ideas and you get people's wheels turning, I'm hoping our fingers are crossed for this year. So we'll see what happens, but be positive. So anyway, oh good. He's still building park benches. I told him to give me a call because I would come out with my drill and I would help him too.
Way to go.
I'm sure he'd love that.
Yeah, that's great. That is great.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing all the things I wish I had. Good for you.
So I will say for all my Michigan friends that are on here, it may be a little bit hard to travel to Australia, although I would love it. I did even offer it a bit to the Ohio governor. I didn't join Kiwanis to sit and write checks. I didn't really join Kiwanis to be the governor. If you'd asked me 11 years ago when I joined, I would have said, what governor? What in the world is that? I wasn't even planning on being club president. That just kind of, for lack of better terms, that happened. Lieutenant governor just kind of happened. Governor was the only thing I ever planned for. And then we got a pandemic. So maybe I'm going to quit planning to do something. But anyway, my offer is to any of the clubs I can travel to where it works in with my work schedule. So basically, if you're after 6 o'clock at night or on the weekends and you're doing a service project or a fundraiser or some sort of big celebration, I will do my very best to come out and provide an extra set of hands to help you with that project. So it is first come, first served. Larry's club tried to get me in August to come out and help with their big, huge fundraiser. Sounds like loads of fun. Unfortunately, my club got me first. So I had to help with my club's fundraiser. But if you've got something you want an extra pair of hands, that's why I joined Kiwanis, to make a difference in kids' lives. And if I can help you guys out in any way to do that, give me a call, text, email, Facebook message. Just don't try an Instagram message because that doesn't come through every time.
All right. Thank you, Rosemary. Other thoughts? Tony?
Well, I'm quite happy to share some of my plans. It's interesting to listen to Rosemary. Unfortunately, I didn't come into this role until very, very late in the year because our governor-elect resigned. So I really didn't get a chance to discuss my strategic plan with my lieutenant governors to get any consultation going. What I've said, and I know that Rosemary has put a big emphasis on service, which is really good because that's what we're all about. What I've said to my clubs, or what I am saying to my clubs, is just keep doing what you're doing. And don't be afraid to raise money. In Australia, we have a fairly uniform across the states fundraising source. So don't quote me, but getting money is not a big deal. So I've set targets for giving money. And so I said, well, don't be embarrassed about just cooking sausages and earning money. Concentrate on where that money is going, and that's the project. Membership has got to be our greatest problem. It is, but I really like the concept of the ACE tools. I don't necessarily like the ACE tools because they're in a foreign language, but the principles are there. And if someone, and I've got to get through to the clubs, is don't take every word literally. Think of the principles and go through those ACE tools and at least attempt some of them to get your clubs into a presentable, because I'm in the situation where, and I have been for some time, I'm embarrassed to invite visitors to my own club because, you know, we're a bit of a rabble. We enjoy each other's company, but whether that's inviting to other people. And I've been to clubs even worse. And I might add, I've been to clubs in the US that are similar to ours. So it is a global problem. So I'm trying to get across that keep doing what you're doing as far as service goes, because we do really great service. Don't be embarrassed about raising money. And here's a couple of financial targets. And concentrate on getting your clubs in order so they're attractive, and talk about membership. Keep the membership message going, because that is our priority. And we still have an eye plan, Sue. We've added in a fifth eye for education. We call it Insight. So the I-Plan, it was very, very easy to talk to and to use that as a term. Strategic plan sounds too businesslike, but people on the board before me decided to change, and hey, that's what happens in Kiwanis. So that's in a nutshell. And as far as service leadership, that's a huge problem in Australia. We have a lot of trouble getting into schools, but we've concentrated on terrific kids. So I've said, keep trying to improve, keep doing it, because we're not bad. But you've got to convert those terrific kids schools into membership.
And I think that you make a great point. We need to recognize that we're still doing great work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we may have, you know, for whatever, I mean, we've been through a world health pandemic, right? But we still are doing great things in our communities and providing that that recognition for those clubs. You know, I mean, instead of saying, hey, you didn't do, it's like, hey, here's what you did do. You know, I joke with our team here because, you know, it seems like it always rains on Saturdays. And they're like, well, you know, there's a 70% chance of rain. I said, well, there's a 30% chance that it won't rain. Let's throw it around. And they look at me and I'm like, no, seriously, there's a 30% chance that it won't rain. Okay, pack your rain gear, but 30% is it's not going to rain, you know, and then you get through the day and they're like, oh yeah, well, you're right. I'm like, put it, you know, on the inspiration side of it and turn it around.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'm doing is to, we've had board meetings roughly every 3 months for as long as I've been in Kiwanis. So because we've got to do a lot more by Zoom, I said, well, let's have a shorter monthly meeting so we can just keep on the topic. So the lieutenant governors and the other board members know that we do have some priorities and we do have some issues. So we can talk about membership. We can work out how we can help each other because no person can do it by themselves. And people have to learn to ask for help.
That's right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to delegate and you need to learn to ask for help.
Yeah.
Very,
So
very true.
That's
Very true.
basically what I'm trying to do.
Wonderful.
Sue,
Yes, Brad.
I was just gonna circle back with something that Rosemary said, and maybe I didn't, get it right or whatever, but I wanted it sort of is sticking in my craw that so many of our clubs meeting at noon that perhaps it's not convenient for other folks and all. And I really think coming through this pandemic, wherever in the hell we are with it, there's great opportunities for more satellite groups. So if you have a noontime club, start a morning, start an after work one that meets just once a month at a winery or a brew pub or something like that. But I spoke recently to the Port Townsend Club out in Washington State, and Liz Quayle there, I think she was president, she may not be now, but they have two different groups. They're a traditional sort of noontime club, and they have a morning group and an after work group, and they each sort of have their own mission or some of their own service projects, but they also help the regular noontime club with theirs. It just seems like a good back and forth, and it just seems like you could go out onto the Nextdoor app or any sort of places and sort of promote the fact that we know now that there are a lot greater needs in every community as a result of coming through the pandemic, and so we're just trying to recruit some folks that might want to meet at other times and see whether we could get more members that way.
But I mean, it's one of the things my club has done. We have gone, so we actually do meet in person, but we do meet on Zoom as well. So, and we're a lunch club, but what we have found is people will jump on for the half-hour meeting, or the 40-minute meeting that's happening, and listen to the speaker and hear what's going on, where they don't have to drive the 25 minutes to get there. They're like, okay, I can do this. I'm not driving the whole time. I can, get to the meeting. I can log in. I can still participate in what's going on, and just figure out ways that people can come to that meeting, right? I mean, if you can't come, you can't come, but let's figure out ways to make it easier for people to come. And I mean, some of our members can't make that meeting, but they're very involved with our service leadership programs.
Yeah,
because they can adjust their schedule to do those.
Are you alternating between the two? I've come across a club recently that has chosen to meet once a month, traditional, bring in an outside speaker over lunch type thing. And then the other one they're doing, I think, after work via Zoom. And I find that there are, some clubs that have done a great job of being able to transition and figure out the mechanics of being able to add a hybrid format, and then there are others that are just like freaked out and not doing a very good job of it
Right.
and everything. And so I think that's a great alternative, is to maybe alternate. You could even do that if you were a weekly club, have two of them be in person and two of them be by Zoom or whatever.
So we're actually
Brett-
doing in person and Zoom every week.
Oh, every week. Okay.
Every week. We have the space and the ability to set it up so that a lot of times we've had speakers that couldn't come to the meeting, right? They're not from town. So they may have got on. We've got snowbirds, as we like to say here in the States, where everybody has gone south. And they're still, jumping in on the meetings, or if someone's traveling, like we have a couple of our employees, or a couple of our members right now that are working out of state. So they can jump in on the hybrid and still hear. Now, we have some speakers in person. We have some on Zoom. It just depends on the meeting, but we advertise it enough to say, okay, here's what's going on.
Mhm.
Here's the activities. This is a big week for us. We have a big chicken barbecue tomorrow. So we've been pushing the chicken barbecue. We've been pushing, we're going to do poker nights. We're going to do, we've got 2 or 3 Salvation Army bell ringing. So all that information is now getting out through our newsletter, and we're making sure that is, that information there is there as well. So we thought about doing every other meeting, but then several people said to me, they're like, I'll never remember whether I'm supposed to be coming to a meeting
The
or I'm
schedule.
supposed to. Yeah. And I said, we have a couple people that can be at the meeting every week to set it up. Because there are some days I'm traveling that I can't get there, and it's nice to be able to get in.
Have you had a good turnout with your in-person meetings? I know Barb's online and she's a member of the Northwest Indie Club, and they actually ended up having like 5 different members offer $25 a piece the first time that they would have 20 people show up for in person, and they still are sort of struggling, with a membership, I think that's somewhere in the 50s or whatever, of getting people to come back in person.
I'm trying to think of who was at our last meeting. I think there were 10 or 12, and I think there were 10 people online, which, we're about a 38 member club. So, but we still have a number of professionals that, lunch just doesn't work for them, but they're involved in, other things. And we know that a number of our city members, there's a big staff meeting on every Monday that they participate in. So they may not be able to get in, for those meetings. So, but the newsletter, and I think knowing that we have a chicken barbecue this weekend, right? We've been sending out more information, and more people have, coming to the meeting and picking up tickets and, getting that stuff together. So we will actually have at our chicken barbecue tomorrow night a table for membership. So
I heard 2 things: communication and an event. And I think that's kind of our big things, is we need to make sure we're communicating, and we're communicating enough, because it takes 5 to 7 times of you hearing something for you to remember it. And then we all communicate in different ways. Our membership chair has picked up on this the fastest. Rosemary's the best to get a hold of when you send her a text message. And then I will go check my email, or I will respond with whatever the quick question was via text, versus if you send me an email, I might see it in the notifications bar on my phone and be like, oh, I'll deal with that when I get home. Yeah, and it might be when I get home tomorrow, I actually have time to deal with it. But communication styles are so different. We used to be, you didn't join Kiwanis unless you could show up at noon every day, once a week. And we still have one member who goes in, like, why haven't you been here in 3 weeks? Well, one, that's really nice that we are checking up on people. But 2, he didn't understand when the one member told him, was like, yeah, our supplier drops off all of our supplies for the business at 7:30 on Thursday mornings, and we can't get a secretary hired anymore because nobody, we're having trouble finding jobs everywhere, or sorry, finding people to fill jobs everywhere, it seems like. And she's like, until we can find somebody, I've got to be sitting here at this desk at 7:30 when they come in with our business supplies. And so the second, but when we have an event, that person's showing up. And she's showing up because, we realize, by we, I mean me, realized that we had to keep the club together. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to have to do it. And because nobody else feels like they have enough technology to run a Zoom or to send a weekly email. And our president was like, that actually sounds like a good idea. We probably should do it. And so, I'm trying to find somebody to help me send out at least a monthly email, because the people who are not attending our meetings are the ones telling me they're reading the email our club sends out every week. So, making sure that you have the different ways of communication going. And so, post on your Facebook page, send an email, pick up the telephone and call, send a text message. You kind of know the people that you're close with in your club, how to get a hold of them the best, I would think. And so, that's just kind of learning it about people. And you might have to post on everything. So I follow the Lansing Club. I've gotten forwarded the email, so I kind of know what's going on with their chicken barbecue. And I know the one member who's coordinating the volunteers, he's actually better to get at via a text message or a Facebook message than he is perhaps some other ways. So, it's just kind of learning that about people and knowing how to reach them and making sure that you're at least doing some of that. So you do get to the people who can't attend meetings, because guess what? My name's Rosemary and I don't have perfect attendance. And I honestly will admit that, but my name is Rosemary and I show up for every fundraiser and service project that my club has. So that's where I see that we need to make sure that we still tell everybody what's going on, because that's what, the members I'm not seeing at the meeting are still showing up to our big fundraiser. They're still showing up to, next week we're having our annual banquet, so I won't be on our Let's Talk, unfortunately, for Bert, but those people are telling me they will be there that night. They're just can't be there at 7:30 in the morning, or they finally retired and they're not going to get up that early, because that's the other option. And so, everything.
I was worried about, been sending 2 newsletters a week to our club, and I was really concerned about, because you hear all the time, don't send me any more newsletters, I don't send any more. And a couple of our members that hadn't been in a meeting in a while said, hey, we love that you send a couple of newsletters a week. And I'm like, what? Normally people are saying, don't send me anymore, right? Don't send them to me. And they're like, no, they're quick to read because it's a lot of pictures, a lot of graphics, and they're quick to read. And he said, I can look on my phone, it renders really well on the phone. I can tell what's going on. He said, so he goes, I don't mind getting 2 a week. And I'm like, well, you're not going to get 2 a week every week, but if there's enough going on that, like last week we had one of our members was honored with the National Eagle Scout Award. We had, the homecoming parade that people had volunteered at. So we had 3 or 4 events. And I thought, instead of trying to save that for a week and put it in next week, I just put it, in a different one. So, and we used to print ours off and mail them and all that stuff, but people are like, no, we love getting them electronically. So, all right. Any last thoughts, Miss Rosemary? It's 8:57.
Well, thank you all for sitting here and listening to me for an hour. My workmates will be grateful to you tomorrow that I will have gotten all my talking out, and I might be quiet tomorrow.
That would be good. No, I mean, I didn't say that, did I?
Sue's out of town, so she doesn't have to hear me talk when
I'm out of town Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be back Sunday night. Won't have a voice anymore, but that's okay. All right. Well, I will thank everybody for being here tonight. Join us next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for President-elect Bert West. And who knows what Bert has up his sleeve for next week, but we'll get that all firmed up. And then we have youth protection after that. And then President Peter will be with us the end of the month. So we got seven sessions left, I think. And then we'll call it it'll be the holidays for those of us here. So with that, we will call it an evening. I will stop recording and we'll make sure that we get this up online.